Before crashing to E.T., Scott, anything to add? No?
Not particularly, no.
Fair enough. Steven Spielberg, over his long and varied career, has had many notable successes and, of course, a number of failures. But for a period from the mid-70s to the mid-80s, he could almost do no wrong, and was responsible for a number of remarkably memorable, impactful and resonant films that created iconic characters and put a huge stamp on popular culture for the next 3 decades. 4 perhaps even now. The last of these early touchstones was E.T. the Extraterrestrial, directed and produced by Spielberg and Kathleen Kennedy, and written by Melissa Matheson. One October evening, some aliens are visiting California. Not to abduct humans, nor invert the relative positions of the innards and exteriors of cows, but to study plants. Harmless as they may be, though, some shadowy human figures are hunting them through the forest, and when they catch up with the aliens, the little critters flee for the safety of their spaceship and get the hell out of Dodge. Well, Los Angeles, but that's not a saying. Unfortunately, though, one of their party is left behind. This creature, later to be known as E.T., seeks refuge in the home of 10-year-old Elliot, Henry Thomas, where he lives with his brother, Michael, Robert McNaughton, his sister Gertie, an impossibly cute Drew Barrymore, and his recently separated mother Mary, Dee Wallace. Finding the frightened alien, Elliot shelters him, eventually bringing his brother and sister into the secret. In the beginning, there were a lot of fish-out-of-water antics as E.T. learns about Earth food and customs. Sadly, though, this is a place where the film fails, having its advanced intergalactic alien visitor, as so many other films have done, be about as smart as your average concussed spaniel when the script demands it. You know, for the lulz. But there is certainly a lot of entertainment derived from it, particularly when Elliot, seemingly having developed a psychic bond with the critter, begins demonstrating the results of E.T.'s experimentation with alcohol while in the middle of school. E.T. is scared, lonely and homesick though, and soon simply sick, so Elliot and his siblings help him to create a communication device with which he can contact his colleagues. A phone of sorts, with which he can call home. It's a slight possibility you're familiar with that line if you're not familiar with the film. All the while though, and unbeknownst to the children, the shadowy humans from the film's opening are prowling in the neighbourhood trying to locate the alien. And if you're not familiar with the film, I'll leave it there to leave the final act as a surprise. E.T. is perhaps most remarkable as an evocation of childhood, most notably through its child's point of view, both figuratively and literally, with the majority of the film shot from child height, with Dee Wallace's the only adult face seen until the final act. That the child cast, particularly Henry Thomas's Elliot, are so natural and give such good performances is no small part of this success. And talking of success, that so many of Spielberg's most successful and enduring films were made in collaboration with John Williams is neither a surprise nor a coincidence, and E.T. is another iconic Williams score, with the hopeful, soaring melody of the flying theme being a standout. As with many Williams scores though, there is an argument to be made that E.T.'s is too prescriptive, and certainly too prevalent, but for the most part it complements the story well. I watched E.T. This time around with the near surety that I had never actually seen it, and if I had, it certainly wasn't since the 1980s, but with a pretty good idea of its contents thanks to cultural osmosis. I also went in with a lot of expectation, not least because Scott over there had mentioned watching it not so long ago and his praise was effusive. If there's a disappointment then, it's that it was merely very good, and not something magical, which is frankly what I was expecting. Whether that's due to not having childhood memories of it, or, perhaps more likely, that it's been robbed of some of its own power by being so impactful and therefore granting that power to the subsequent films it inspired and influenced, I don't know. However, it is still a technically accomplished, polished and well-acted yarn with a hell of a lot of heart.
Here's a controversial opinion for you. E.T.'s very good. Right? I know.
Steady on.
Yeah, a moment to recover from that. Yeah, I presume I must have watched this as a younger kid. I can't really remember it. I do remember watching it as a teen thinking I was too cool for this kind of thing and not finding it all that impressive at some point. And then I rewatched it about a year and a half ago when we did our episode on kids' shows. And yeah, it's just a terrific example of a kind of family adventure. I think it is, it's probably a league above anything we spoke about in that episode, to be fair. It just seemed unfair to put it in that episode. It would be too much of a slap fight. It's just a real classic performance, a really classic film. Lots of really great performances from the kids. They feel like very real characters, and it's just a really charming adventure. And the fact that it's not trying to put too much in the way of danger to the situation kind of makes it a lot more relatable in a number of ways, even when there is actual, danger towards the end when they're invaded by people in spacesuits, which isn't, I think, quite how CDC operatives would work. But anyway, when they come in, they look weird and alien, far more alien than the alien itself does. But even then, they're not exactly bad people. They're trying to help at the end of the day. They don't want to see this little creature die either. So, it just all hangs together really well, and it's, I think, stood up the test of time very well for a film of its age. Obviously, your effects work has come on leaps and bounds in these days, but I don't think it could be done all that more effectively than they've done here. The bikes flying across the sky is one of these iconic moments of cinema that has been seen in adventure rides across the theme parks across the world. So yeah, it all just works really well. I think it's a really, really good film. Certainly one of Spielberg's best, and just a tremendous little all-round work of entertainment.
I just wish I could remember if I had seen it or not. I said, like, cultural osmosis and like clip shows and things, like it's hard not to have got the broad strokes of E.T.
Yeah.
But it's weird, like, I don't know if you were the same, Scott, but I know that I've very much inherited some opinions of something I'm not really known at the time from my parents, and I have clear memories of my mum in particular when I was a kid saying that E.T. wasn't very good, which I suspect means that we probably watched as a family and she didn't like it.
Yeah.
I kind of internalised that as my opinion for a long time, so that's why I never really sought out rewatching it without really realising that was why.
Yeah.
So I was quite enthusiastic about watching it this time, and I didn't think it was quite as special as everybody else did. I just thought it was very good, but that's fine. Very good is still, well, very good.
We'll take it. Yeah.
Yeah. But there are lots of nice touches, and I wonder how much children notice them. I noticed it immediately, but I'm wondering as a child whether you'd sort of think like, yeah, well, that's how the world looks to me. The very pointed fact that everything's shot from the child's height and you don't see any adult faces, even in the school. Like Spielberg has taken great pains to make sure you never see the teacher's face.
Yeah.
It's always just cropped out or obscured or something, like so it like focuses your mind on the children, and also it's like the point of view of a child, like that they're seeing other children's faces which are at the same height as them, and kind of I'm almost imagining it now like Charlie Brown, like the adults are towering above and speaking words you can't really understand. Yeah. Talking of Charlie Brown though, so I've given myself a useful segue to something I wanted to mention. E.T., right? That's a pretty famous design now. Instantly recognisable.
Yeah.
I would say it doesn't really look a great deal like anything else. Legendary film reviewer Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times, in his 1982 review, or perhaps this may be his essay afterwards about why E.T. is one of the great films, but regardless, says that E.T. looks a little like Snoopy. Yeah. Is about as far as I could get down that line of reasoning.
So I can't quite process that, to be honest. It's been a tumultuous week. I'm not sure I've got the brain power to add that to it as well. I can't process that in any meaningful way. It doesn't look anything like Snoopy.
Yes, I know. Snoopy, notable dog. It looks like
famously
a dog.
Not an alien. Yes.
But the closest I could come is like, okay, Snoopy's in profile, his body's small and the large head kind of protrudes. In profile, E.T. very, very slightly similar. But I mean, I think Roger was quite a populist movie reviewer rather than a film critic, sort of not an academic style one or anything. But I mean, he's had sort of influential opinions over the years, but I'm honestly thinking that at least anything from 1982 onwards ought to be seriously questioned.
Yes, Because apparently his eyes stopped working.
Yes, which is kind of a problem for being involved in the review of such a visual medium. Looking a little like Snoopy. Yeah, so here's your public service announcement. Disregard any post-1982 Roger Ebert opinions. They're clearly at least faulty.